Mrs. Wethington, and we are going to be talking about Unit 1, Past, Present, and Future Industries of North Carolina. And I'm going to show you how to annotate these notes, and we're going to talk some more about it. And you already know that this is like my absolute favorite topic to talk about with North Carolina history, so let's get started. Excuse me. All right, so before we get too far into this, let's go on and make a copy. I'm going to rename my copy with my first and last name, Past, Present, and Future Industries of North Carolina. In the on the Canvas assignment, I tell you to name it something else. Just use this because I didn't rename this. So just like take away the copy stuff and then put your first and last name. If you're unsure what I'm talking about, just send me an email and I'll show you. All right, share it with the same people. I just do that because it's easier. Okay, so here's our copy. So if you would just go on and grab a yellow highlighter. Please don't use other colors. Just use yellow because I have a color coding system. So there will be other times that we use other colors, but for right now I just need you to use yellow. So please highlight it, Unit 1, Past, Present, and Future Industries of North Carolina. And we are going to talk about textiles, and we're going to talk about the fall and resurgence of the tobacco industry in North Carolina. All right, so textiles. Textiles in most other places is referred to as textiles, but here in North Carolina we pronounce it textiles, and that is the creation of fabric, cloth out of original cotton or man-made synthetic fibers. So basically your clothing, carpets, upholstery, curtains, anything that's made from a fabric. And let's highlight this here. So for example, clothing, furniture, upholstery, curtains, car fabric. The industry as we know it now, first started in North Carolina in the early 1800s. North Carolina, especially as you get back into the coastal plain and the Piedmont region, well, we're in the coastal plain here, but when I say when you get into the inner coastal plain, like as you get closer to the Piedmont region, that's where you would start to see these textile mills pop up around the early 1800s, and the reason being was because the rivers, although they were shallow, they were good power sources for mills. So that's why we had textile mills, and the most of the people that worked in the textile mills were primarily young girls, young boys, and it was not just like this in North Carolina, it was like this worldwide. We'll read some stuff about the shirtwaist factory fire and some things like that. We'll do that later on, not right this second while we're doing this. For those of you that are familiar with American Girl dolls, I think it was Samantha. There in the series of books that they do for each doll. There was a book about how she had befriended this little girl that worked in a textile mill, and like she was injured badly from it, which was a very common thing in textile mills and also just mills in general. The working conditions in these mills prompted child labor laws and improved safety. This also prompted OSHA, with the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Association. I don't know, but something like that. 1923, Burlington Industries opened. What you now know as Burlington Coat Factory was Burlington Mills. Burlington Mills was huge back in like getting into the intercoastal plain on into the Piedmont in North Carolina. In fact, there was a Burlington Mills in Smithfield, which is near where I'm from, and it was one of the primary employers for the longest time. So when the textile industry started to falter back in the early 1990s or so, when Burlington Mills closed, it killed the economy in the area, like back in Smithfield, and this was an issue from the Piedmont on into where we live in the coastal plain because it changed it changed the economics of the state, and it changed the labor force of the state, but I'll get into that in just a minute when I talk about NAFTA down here. So 1923, Burlington Industries opened. Let's go in and highlight that. which is now known as Burlington Coat Factory, and Burlington, North Carolina, which is in the Piedmont region. When you get up like Greensboro, High Point, that area, that's where you'll see Burlington. And they have a really good outlet there, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But all right, so in the 1970s, Burlington was the world's largest textiles operation, which could kind of put it into it's a is a wild perspective when you think about in the 1970s, Burlington was the world's largest textile operation, but due to NAFTA and years of decline, by the 1990s, Burlington went out of business. So it's kind of wild. After many years of decline, textiles is rebuilding to a thriving North Carolina industry, but the decline came from NAFTA, and let's talk about NAFTA. So during the 1990s, many textile plants, especially in the southeastern United States, closed due to NAFTA. And NAFTA was, excuse me, I want to say pushed through with George H.W. Bush, the first one, or maybe it was Bill Clinton. It was right there in between those two presidencies that NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, came into law January 1st, 1994, allowing countries of North America to send trade jobs to other countries with cheaper labor forces without tax penalty. So basically what was happening is all of these mills that were employing all these people in the textile industry in North Carolina, they closed shop in the United States and they moved outside to other countries because they were not being taxed on their products, sending these products back to the United States as an import to the United States as opposed to making them here. And while I guess it seemed like a good idea at the time, it ended up killing whole industries in United States and North Carolina. I mean, it's something that people my age watched happen as we grow up. As we were growing up, there were people, like mass amount of people, that worked for a textile plant that all of them lost their jobs. So it created like migration. People needed to move other places where there were more jobs, and it created a serious issue economically. And here, I don't know what I was doing with this. I think it was like a little drawing, but we'll skip that for now. Okay, so I've been talking about this for a while, so I feel like I probably need to go and stop this video, and then I'll start a part 2 with the whole tobacco is king, that part of it. Not saying that it is now, but you'll understand why I say that when you watch the next video.